mode. All right. So, anyway, I'm Leslie Hammond. I'm with the Home Care Alliance of Massachusetts. We do a monthly business session, a lunch and learn, to kind of explore different opportunities for people to improve their growth and their operations in the care at home setting. So today I invited Zach and Tucker from Enterprise Fleet to give us a little overview on what they have been able to do for various members and agencies. Um, they did say they want this to be an open conversation, so please feel free to unmute and have a conversation or put something in the chat. Just for awareness, it is recorded, and I will post it on our business development channel, and it'll live on YouTube, and we can share the information with others. So, at any rate, Zach, if you'd like to take it away from here.
Well, now I'm nervous, Leslie.
Oh,
Recording
really?
everything, be on
Oh,
YouTube
yeah.
forever. But now, thank you so much for the intro. Tucker and I are very excited to talk to you about fleet management. We were just at the New England Home Care and Hospice Conference and Trade Show last week. And really, in the home health industry and the healthcare industry, a lot of what we do is almost foreign and not necessarily known. So we want to make this as educational as possible. If you have questions, like Leslie said, just feel free to drop them in the chat, or just come off mute and respond. We're more than happy to engage with anyone as we're talking. So I'll get right into it. We have probably 30 minutes worth of material just to review. Hopefully some conversations at the end or throughout to answer any questions. But we'll get rolling. Let's see here. There we go. So always want to start with an agenda. Tucker and I are going to introduce ourselves and Enterprise Fleet Management, who we are, what we do. From there, we're going to get to the meat and the potatoes of what we want to talk about today, and that's really going to be centered around comparing mileage reimbursement versus a company-owned fleet and what that could look like for you. And then finally, we're going to wrap up, like I said, with any questions, but Tucker will be monitoring the chat if anything comes up as we're going ahead. So first things first, my name's Zach Gilbert. Hello, everyone. I am with Enterprise Fleet Management. I have been with the company for just over 14 years. Like most enterprise employees, I started out just about right after college, working our daily rental operations, renting cars. Did that for a number of years, working my way up to Boston Logan Airport when we had over 10,000 vehicles in fleet. So I know something about fleet management. I got to spend some time in St. Louis at our corporate headquarters, and now I'm back in Boston on our fleet management team, working with my good friend Tucker here. I am Massachusetts born and raised. I'm from Salem, Massachusetts, the Witch City, if you're familiar. It's a fun little town if you ever want to give it a visit. And with that, not to give it too much, but here you go, Tuck.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tucker LeClaire with Enterprise Fleet Management. I'm the sales manager overseeing New England. So, like Zach, I've also been with Enterprise for 14 years. Not New Massachusetts based or born, but Vermont born and New Hampshire based. But we're super excited to talk to you a little bit about fleet management today and how we can assist everybody.
Perfect.
We had some great pictures Zach didn't share yet of ourselves, though.
It didn't show, Tucker?
There's an arrow.
I'm not seeing it on my side.
Oh, there we go. Yep. I'm Vermont born, New Hampshire raised, and working in Massachusetts myself.
Are you? Where in Vermont are you born?
Barry.
Okay, same. Berlin at the Berlin Hospital?
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes, me as well. I grew up in Montpelier.
And Zach, my bestie, went to Salem High School. She would have graduated in 95.
Didn't exactly overlap, but I bet she's wonderful.
All right.
Hey,
all right. Take it away, boys.
do we have
So
I just can't see it on my end, Zach.
Picture? Yeah.
This
Both
is
of you are up.
private care.
Okay.
Maybe on a second screen, Tucker.
All right, well, maybe technical difficulties here. I'll follow along on my side. So
Okay.
in the enterprise mobility side, so when most of you think of enterprise, you probably think of enterprise rent-a-car. So Zach and I are on the enterprise fleet management side of things. So recently, in the last few years, Enterprise actually rebranded to Enterprise Mobility, and our goal is to really be your total transportation solution for anything you need. So as you'll see on this, we obviously have Enterprise Rent-A-Car, we have Enterprise Truck Rental, we have car sales, we have fleet management, we have Flexi Rent. So anything you need transportation related, we are your solution. So it's just a really great one-stop shop if you decide to partner with us. So moving into the next slide, just what it looks like with a long-term partnership and success with enterprise. Like we are local boots on the ground in market with which really differentiates us from any other fleet management company. So we have 60 local offices all over the country, and we have over 15,000 customers at this point, operating over 1 million vehicles just within fleet management. Why this is great is obviously our territory here. We cover Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. Our employees actually sit and work in your office. So we're going to meet with you in person, help you strategize, and put the best plan in place that allows you to operate more effectively and reduce your total cost of ownership when it's tied to your fleet. The last piece of this is we're the only other fleet management company in the world as well that owns and operates their own vehicles. So we operate roughly 2 million of our own fleet across North America. And just fun fact, that really, when we talk about like reduction in total cost of ownership, I always think of our resale ability, and that's how we can help you really get the equity back, drive down operating costs tied to your fleet. And that actually makes up roughly 30% of our net profit on our rental side. And really, what we do for our customers is just extend the technology, the infrastructure, and the expertise that we have internally and help them accomplish that with their own fleet of vehicles. So just moving into like our reference slide, I just like to share some of the clients that we work with here locally. I'm sure many of you know of Tufts Medicine Care at Home. They've been a partner with us in the home health industry, and we provide their skilled caregivers fleet vehicles. Oh, gee, did you say something? Oh, he's muted now. So going back to that, obviously our program is amazing and we can help you reduce your fleet spend and help you recruit, retain employees and help market and provide brand image with newer, safer vehicles. And if you want to logo them, but if you decide to reach out to Zach and I and start a conversation where we can conduct a financial analysis and talk about all the benefits like we are going to today, we can also get you hooked up with current customers so you can get an understanding of what it looks like from a financial and operational perspective from their point of view. The last thing I'll say about this is we were obviously able to help Tufts reduce their reimbursement spend by flipping to company vehicles. But one of the main drivers of them coming to us is we understand how difficult it is to recruit and retain employees in this field. So this was a huge benefit to their skilled caregivers and allowed them to, create a better work environment and benefits package for their employees.
Perfect. Well, Tucker, that leads us right into how a fleet program can improve hiring and employee retention. So I appreciate the easy transition. So at first, when we consider your organization, and one of, if not the most important part of your organization is probably your people. You need to hire, retain, and have the best talent possible for your company to be as successful as possible. And I'm sure each of you place a ton of time, energy, and money into recruiting, retaining, and having the best talent possible. So as you consider your talent pool and who's even available for you to hire, if your organization requires employees to own a vehicle and, to be frank, be comfortable using it on a day-to-day work basis, you have a potentially limited application pool. So when you consider, especially in the larger cities like Boston or any other major metropolitan area where public transportation is an option, there's a potential that someone may not own or operate a vehicle as part of their family. In Massachusetts, roughly 12% of households do not own a vehicle. Probably most of that centered closer to the Boston area, and that's higher than the national average. But I just want to say it's not nothing that you may be missing out on in terms of talent when that talent is so hard to potentially find and locate at times. So sometimes when companies think about mileage reimbursement and when we talk about mileage reimbursement, there's a belief that it's submitting an expense report, it's cut and dry, it's easy, it's no big really deal. However, there are a lot of more considerations to be made and other lifts that have to be really thought of from an employee perspective. So if I need to purchase a vehicle, I need to go to the dealership, buy one, I go to the DMV, register, license, I need to get insurance on the vehicle. And part of that is identifying how much I am driving per year, what my annual patterns are. I need to maintain my vehicle, go to the body shop, fuel it up. And I know you're probably thinking a lot of those expenses are fairly normal. If you own a vehicle, you're doing them anyway, which is true. However, I own a company vehicle and I probably do two-thirds mileage for work versus my one-third mileage personal. So if I did not have a company vehicle with Enterprise, I would have to do all of these things 66% more. And when I think of myself as an individual, I don't really have any buying power. I'm looking to go to a dealership to buy a car. I'm buying one single car. I'm looking for a local mechanic that I hope gives me a good deal and fixes the car. And I don't may not have the education to know where to go, how to negotiate, what pricing is accurate. However, when you think of enterprise and as a global transportation company, as Tucker had already talked about, we're able to leverage all of our relationships, our partnerships, and you as an organization, if you had a company vehicle program, now you're really talking about some purchasing power, and we can really pull a lot of those administrative and tough tasks that employees have to complete regardless of whether or not they want to, because they have to operate a vehicle as part of their work. It can be a heavier lift. So if you were to transition to a partnership with Enterprise Fleet Management and own a fleet of vehicles, all of that work is now taken off the employee's plates. Instead of having to do all of those items, what Enterprise can do is we're able to purchase the vehicle for you. We can help support with insurance, license and titling. We can provide solutions from a maintenance and fuel standpoint. We can provide all of the tracking necessary and wrap everything up into one package situation. So where your organization can pay Enterprise one bill for all the items with everything broken down per vehicle, and the employee does no longer have those out-of-pocket expenses. So that transition saving employees time and money, and ultimately really can save your organization money as well, as Tucker alluded to. But we're going to hit on the financials a little bit later. So I know you can read all the statistics, so I'm not going to go one by one, but Enterprise partnered and completed a third-party survey. And what we wanted to understand is the impact that having a company vehicle has to employees working for those organizations. And I just want to speak for myself and say if I was part of this survey, I probably would have had pretty similar results. Enterprise provides a company vehicle, and if I were ever to look for another opportunity outside of Enterprise, if they didn't have a company vehicle, I'm probably far less likely to even look at them as an opportunity because I'm going to have to then purchase the vehicle, maintain it, do all those things on my own. And whether you think of it or not, it's part of a potentially compensation package. So there are some really big benefits from an employee standpoint of having a company vehicle. And we want to prove out to you why it could financially also make sense for your organization. One thing we also wanted to advertise, one of our partners, WellCare Health, if you look at their company website and if you're a potential employee looking for a new company to work for, first thing you're going to see on their employee benefits is dependable and attractive company vehicles. Advertise something they're very proud about and something that could potentially set them apart from the competition that may not offer that. From a company standpoint, what that also means is you're able to advertise potentially that company vehicle yourself. Maybe you can wrap it, put lettering on it to advertise your organization. And it's a vehicle that you're going to be proud that your caregivers are going to be showing up in, that's reliable, safe, and something that is going to really make a big impact from a recruitment standpoint. So next, we're going to transition to how a managed fleet program can enhance caregiver productivity and safety. So I know you remember this slide from earlier, and when we were looking at the slide, there's a lot of things that an employee is responsible for doing managing a vehicle. However, if I were a betting man, the majority of your employees probably don't drive 2026 all-wheel drive SUVs built for the New England weather, regardless of what it could be. But when your caregivers are going out to someone's home, they really become a representation of your organization, and their vehicle is a representation of your organization. So if a caregiver, for example, has an older vehicle, has some unexpected maintenance, and they're not able to make it work today, What that does is it impacts your ability to provide extremely positive levels of care. And because of that, it could potentially impact your client satisfaction, which we know impacts a number of other areas. So outside of that vehicle reliability, if you think brand image, safety, do you want your clients to really affiliate you with a vehicle that maybe doesn't represent the brand image that you're wanting to show? So all-encompassing fleet management can help answer that solution, have a vehicle that you're proud and want to advertise, and of course, increase that reliability to decrease unexpected callouts and ultimately potentially lower service levels. So,
Zach, we do have
yeah,
a question in the chat if we want to address.
what do we got, Tucker?
So Melvis asked, we have a Honda Pilot that we're looking to sell and get a more fuel efficient, reliable vehicle for the agency. How can that work?
Perfect. You want me to go? You go.
Yeah, go for it if you want to answer.
So, well, what I'll say is, as we're looking to partner with any organization, the first thing we're going to do is create a fleet analysis. If you own a fleet of vehicles today, or if you're on reimbursement, either way, we want to financially prove out to you why a program does or does not make sense. Because at the end of the day, money talks, and I'm sure that's going to be something very important to you. So, if any of our partners own a fleet of vehicles today or a handful of vehicles, what we'll do is we will come up with a recommendation. So if that Honda Pilot is something you're looking to sell, maybe it's getting a little bit up there in mileage or in what year it is, we would recommend the vehicle for replacement. And we are brand agnostic. We can purchase directly through any manufacturer. If you wanted to replace that with another Honda, we could show you what a Honda would look like 2026 Pilot, and we're able to spec out the vehicle to your exact specification. So when you buy a vehicle at a local dealership, you're restricted to the vehicles they have there. However, since we purchase directly through the manufacturer, we can build it to your exact need, which means maybe including extra safety features, removing some potentially unnecessary comfort or luxury features. And we can do a cost comparison showing you the difference in operating that vehicle today versus the cost to cycle that vehicle and operate a new one through enterprise.
Great answer. And just to lead off of Zach, Melvis, as Zach said, we're brand agnostic. What we'll do is we'll put together a cost comparison of all of the different vehicles in that size from each manufacturer, right? So if we're looking at a Honda Pilot, we're going to compare that to a Chevy Traverse, to a Ford Explorer, to a Toyota Highlander, and help you understand what yields the lowest cents per mile in that car class in that given model year. So we're spoon feeding you the data needed to make the best decision for your business.
Perfect. So earlier we've talked about the pain points. I'm sure everyone is in the loop on them at this point in terms of from a company and employee standpoint, aged vehicles, brand image, out-of-pocket expenses. Funny enough, I think that was in my conversations last week at the New England Home Care and Hospice Trade Show. That's probably the biggest pain point from an employee standpoint I received more than anything is having that out-of-pocket expense, having the time to submit expense reports, just that added piece of thought and work and really adding it into your financials from a personal or family standpoint was something that people mentioned to me as the biggest driver of wanting a company vehicle. So as we look at some of the pain relievers, again, I'm not going to go one by one for you, but a few things I want to hit on is the employees no longer have that out-of-pocket expense. It's something that enterprise can help facilitate partnering with your organization to avoid employees from having any additional out-of-pocket expense, remove that administrative burden, and really provide the enterprise vendor network to help reduce cost and make it feasible and really a program that can be financially advantageous to your organization. So what does that further mean for your organization? Well, you have increased employee reliability, which means hopefully increased satisfaction from your clients, increased retention, and a larger application pool, especially like in that example from earlier. You're advertising the company vehicle. It's a benefit to working for your organization. And it's something that's a differentiator that sets you apart from other people. Of course, enterprise is going to be handling all the administrative functions that go behind the scenes with the fleet of vehicles. Because I'll be frank, if you had to manage a fleet of vehicles and switch how you operate today, it's probably a lot. And it's something that is scary to think about, but with a partner like Enterprise, we try to take all of that away. And ultimately what that would lead to is ideally increased patient satisfaction, which in this world means increased revenue due to those care levels, And what all of our goal is to grow, continue to have opportunity to increase the further markets. Maybe your markets are restricted based off of where your team can travel to. Having a company vehicle can expand that network even further and open up some opportunities for yourself and your organization. All right, Tucker, I'm going to pass it back off to you.
Yes, we're getting to my favorite part where we start to put some numbers on paper and kind of dig into what the cost savings and reductions could look like. So in this section here, like when we're talking to companies that offer a reimbursement, whether it's home health, sales companies, or the trades, like they typically don't believe that they're operating a fleet of vehicles, but I kind of think you still are, right? And some of the key points on that is companies are paying for transportation with reimbursement. One of the big things is your company can be impacted by the employees' vehicle issues, right? So we don't know how old these vehicles are. We don't know how well maintained these vehicles are. And if they're not able to actually get to your patients, that can impact your patient satisfaction, but also your revenue, right? So having a new, safe, reliable fleet can minimize that issue. They'll also associate whatever Zach's touched on this,
No,
but
Tucker, I'm so sorry. The slides keep moving and I have no control over it. So
okay.
I
We're,
apologize
we're
to everyone
gonna
on the
we're gonna
call.
get to this one. Sorry, guys. We're usually on Teams, not Zoom, so bear with us here. But the other piece of that is customers will associate whatever the employees are driving, right? So brand, image, marketing, that's all extremely important. And then while you think that reimbursement is actually less administrative work, as Zach alluded to before, we're really just pushing that work onto your employees, which can add just a whole nother level of stress, and can drive disengagement, unfortunately, within the workforce, right? So now moving into the slide Zach is actually on is the history of the IRS reimbursement rates. I'm sure you're all experiencing this, but just with inflation and the cost of everything in the world, the IRS rate continues to move up at a linear pace. So over the course of the last 20 years, the IRS reimbursement rate has actually doubled, which is just crazy. Um, One thing I will show to you in the financial model we're about to go through, but typically on average, if you shift from reimbursement to a company car program, we can usually save you between 5 to 10 cents per mile. And just quick math, right? If you have a skilled caregiver that is going 20,000 miles per year and we're able to save you 5 cents per mile, that's $1,000 per year per skilled caregiver, right? So if we multiply that by 50 skilled caregivers, we're now reducing your overall fleet spend or reimbursement spend by $50,000. And then there's obviously all of those soft dollar costs that we've talked about that we can't quantify in the financial analysis. So just something to think about, food for thought. So moving into a model that Zach and I would look to put together with you after our initial conversation and gathering some driver-based data, what you've been reimbursing them, how many miles. But in this example, we've got 50 drivers. The reimbursement rate at the time was 70 cents per mile. The monthly mileage per driver was 1,600, so they were going roughly 20,000 miles per year, and the reimbursement monthly amount was $1,166. So, what are we looking to put this home health company in? We're looking to shift them into 2026 Nissan Rogue SVs, all-wheel drive. Super important in the Northeast. So we're going to put them on a 60-month term. Again, they're traveling 20,000 miles per year. Between city and highway miles per gallon, it's 28 to 35. The cost of fuel at the time was $3.50, and the acquisition cost on this vehicle was roughly $31,500.
Hopefully fuel going back to 350, Tucker.
Yeah, we're creeping in the wrong direction right now, unfortunately. So if you pull your eyes to the middle of this graph, on the right-hand side, Zach, if you don't mind hovering your mouse over it where the monthly payment is. So the total monthly payment on this vehicle, which is going to include depreciation, so principal and interest, is $641. The line below that, you'll see an employee copay, and I'll come back to that in a second, but right now we have that zeroed out. The estimated maintenance spend on this is $136. We do offer a full maintenance program, which is fixed and budgeted throughout the term, so you know exactly what you're going to pay each month. Estimated fuel cost based off of miles per gallon and the price of fuel and the annual mileage patterns is going to be $171. Insurance at $200. So your all-in monthly cost on this vehicle is $1,150 or 69 cents per mile. So what you'll notice is just on the front end of this math problem, right? We're 1 cent per mile less than the IRS rate. Effective in 2026, we're actually 3.5% less. So now pulling your eyes down to the bottom part of this model, we haven't factored in the equity from the sale at term. So we're forecasting at 5 years, 100,000 miles. When we turn this vehicle over, we're going to sell it for $9,200. How we structure our finances is our thought process is, hey, if this home care company isn't going to use the vehicle for its full useful life, why should they have to pay for it, right? So we leave a higher book value at term. We don't finance it all the way down to zero to help you preserve cash flow. So at term, when you pay off that book value of $3,100, the equity that is coming back to you is a little bit over $6,000. So when you encompass the front end cost with the resale return, your net cents per mile on this vehicle is 63 cents, which is 7 cents per mile less than what you're paying at the IRS rate. And again, we can't quantify all the soft dollar costs with recruitment, retention, morale, image, marketing, etc. So effective monthly cost, again, right under $1,050. And then we like to pop this out based off of the number of drivers you have and what the annual savings impact looks like, right? So your annual reimbursement total, if you're doing it just based off the IRS rate with 50 drivers, would be right under 700,000. With us, it'd be right under 630,000. So it's a $70,000 per year savings by shifting from a reimbursement model to a company car program. So my math was right in between that 5 cents to 10 cents per mile reduction. And again, depending on what the vehicle type is that you are in need of, it can be even greater. So obviously Toyota just came out with a new model a couple of years ago, the Toyota Corolla Cross. It's a smaller compact vehicle, but it is all-wheel drive. So if something like that would suffice, we're looking at more of a 15 to 20 cent per mile reduction. So it's really a home run. Any questions on the model? I know that was a lot of numbers to talk about, but happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay, we will move
Everyone
forward.
loves how you nerd out on numbers, Tucker.
I'm the numbers guy.
I have a number question, although, what if they go over the 20,000 miles?
So the good thing about our program is it is an open-ended equity finance. So there is no over mileage. There are no wear and tear fees like you think about if you go lease a vehicle from a traditional dealership. So it is an open-ended equity finance. So if you go over mileage, and there are going to be times where the resale market isn't great, right? So we're going to be analyzing this on an ongoing basis. If the resale market's not great and the vehicle is performing really well operationally, we might come to you at the end of that 5 years and say, hey, Zach's vehicle is in a really good space. The market's not good. Let's hold on to this vehicle for another year, right? Or vice versa. If the used car market is really hot and maybe it's costing us a little bit more in maintenance than we thought it was going to, we might look to pull that vehicle forward, but we will always run the analysis to prove out that financially. So that's part of the ongoing consultation that you receive with your account team.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So come so much difference.
Oh, okay. I think somebody popped something in the chat here. I think I may have missed this. Is this assuming the organization is paying for or reimbursing for the fuel used? Yes, this model is assuming that you're reimbursing for the fuel used. Or no, I'm sorry. On our end, yes. So with our program, you would be on our fuel program as well. So we partner with WEX. So you would be cut fuel cards for each vehicle. But on your side of the equation, it's simply 70 cents per mile against all-inclusive full-service fleet management with Enterprise. Johanna, did that answer your question?
Sorry,
Just waiting.
yes, I think it did. So the WEX card is front loaded or paid for by the organization, and all those costs are factored into your bottom line cost here.
Exactly.
Got
Yep,
it. Thank you.
absolutely.
Mm.
The last piece on this, I know Zach just highlighted that employee copay box. So as he alluded to before, like Zach and I have had a company car for probably 10 of the 14 years that we've been working with Enterprise, which is an amazing benefit. We pay $200 per month to have access to personal use. So you can always charge a copay to your drivers to have access to the vehicles for personal use. And then that offsets the cost even more for the organization, right? And I've worked with companies where they're like, hey, 200 maybe seems a little bit too high. So we can do 50, 75, 100, whatever you decide to do. And that's a huge benefit. The last piece, I don't know if anybody here has a company car of their own, but Zach and I have only worked at Enterprise and we have no plans to leave. But you bet your bottom dollar that if I was to ever leave Enterprise, the company I go to better offer me a company vehicle or I'm not even going to look at it, right? So again, that retention and keeping your employees is huge because the cost of turnover is high.
Perfect. So the next thing we want to talk through is just the right vehicle for the right job, which is for your organization. So when it comes to looking at vehicles and analyzing them, we have tools and technology where we're able to purchase directly through the manufacturer. We have pricing and we have historical fleet data. Enterprise has about 2.5 million vehicles in North America. That gives us great insights. And what we'll tell you is not just what the acquisition cost is, but what the total cost of ownership over that vehicle is. And that includes the acquisition price, what incentives are out there, anticipated maintenance, anticipated fuel, what's the vehicle going to depreciate at, and what will it resell for at the end of whatever term we've established. And with that information, we'll come up with a cents per mile and advertise back to you if you were looking for a larger sedan. We'll provide options and say this Toyota Camry is the cents per mile the most effective vehicle from a cost going forward for you to operate. It's not to tell you what to purchase. That's still completely up to you. And we support your purchasing decisions. Doesn't matter to us, but we want to provide you and spoon feed you the information to make the decision for yourself. And then from there, we're going to look to identify the right term. And that's going to be based off the vehicle, based off mileage patterns, based off what your personal preferences are, and put the vehicles on a certain term to what makes most sense for your organization. So I know if we use the Toyota Camry as an example, maybe that vehicle doesn't meet the needs of all your skilled caregivers. So what we've done for other organizations in the past, not just home health, but even sales organizations, anyone who has to travel heavily for work, is we've created a vehicle selection form that we can update depending on what your needs are, depending what you want to offer to your employees and how you want to set up your program. So there could be a very basic business use that doesn't include personal usage, and it's a core sedan, core vehicle, whatever vehicle you determine. And from there, we can create levels in which your employees with a monthly contribution could get a larger, nicer, more seat capacity vehicle. So if I am Tucker with two young children, maybe I do want a Nissan Pathfinder and I do want that extra space because it's something that's going to meet the needs for my family. So while you're able to set up the program, you can make sure the program makes sense for all your caregivers and make sure that no one is going to be offered a larger or less vehicle than anyone else. So it's going to be as fair as possible with this negotiated pricing and everything all set up behind the scenes. We can establish that for you. So as we start to wrap it up, I just wanted to show you our cycle of services because we are a total transportation company. I will say without the support of Enterprise, it's probably a lot transitioning to fleet management. Anyone who operates a fleet of vehicles today, there's a lot that goes into it. However, partnering with Enterprise, partnering with a company that has done this for 70 years and has 2.5 million vehicles in North America, we have a lot of connections vehicles is all we do. So anything from acquisition, insurance, license and titling, maintenance, fuel, resale, as Tucker mentioned earlier, we're more than happy to not only help support you in it, but we have some of the best industry discounts for each of these areas because of that buying power we were talking about earlier. And I know it's not just a one and done. Let's look at purchasing some vehicles, then we're going to let you go on your own. I know everyone on this call didn't get into home health and helping others because they wanted to manage a fleet of vehicles or get more involved in reimbursement. You want to do what you love, and we want to help you do what you love. So our account team is going to be meeting with you at least 3 times a year to talk about the past. Did we meet all the promises that we set for you and we talked about? We'll talk about the future. What's the future look like? What's changing in your business? What's worked well? What maybe hasn't? What adjustments can be made? And then a third call to talk about the industry. What's happening in the industry? What changes are there? What should you be prepared for? To make sure that we're constantly spoon feeding you all of that industry information that you really don't have the time, energy, or maybe even interest in looking into yourselves. And it's going to be with 2 account fleet coordinators and a client strategy manager that are specifically dedicated to your account. Like I said, three times a year, but as much as you need them, they're also going to be there for you. So I know we talked a lot. At this point, we're going to open it up to questions. If anyone has any, we've gotten a couple, which I love. Feel free to shoot any in the chat or come off mute now. We'll pause for a minute.
Don't be shy.
This is great. Thanks. I want to share with you a question or a statement that one of our members told me when we first connected. She runs a fairly good sized agency in the Worcester area and has a lot of potential caregivers, but was not able to put them on board because of before they added fleet because a lot of them were immigrants or their family needed the car. They couldn't have it be in service with the agency all day long. So she only added, I think, 2 or 3 vehicles, but then she has her caregivers cycle through and they'll have a person drive, drop a caregiver off, come back 4 hours later. So they've really been able to maximize the use of those vehicles and definitely caregiver retention. Those caregivers are not employable without a car, not in this field. So, but yeah, it's made a huge difference for her. She doesn't have a staffing issue right now in Worcester. Like that's crazy. Yeah. So there's a good, but others, any other folks? I see April's on the line or Kelsey. Anybody have experience with this before, or is this your first time thinking about vehicles?
This is April. It's my first time thinking as an executive director. I do know that I worked with an agency in New Hampshire New Hampshire and Vermont
Mhm.
that did go this route, but then they chose not to. And I'm not really sure what was behind that decision, whether gas prices fell or whatever reason. But have you had experience with agencies starting it and then basically deciding it's not for them? And if so, what were the reasons behind that?
Do you know what agency is it in Vermont? Because I don't think
It was V&H.
Okay.
The one that does the border.
Yep, the one that does the border. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if that was before our time in fleet management, but since I've come on board 6 years ago, we haven't had any reimbursement clients leave us, unless it was due to like an acquisition. And I'm more not home health. I'm more thinking of like medical device, pharmaceutical companies that were bought out by private equity, and the private equity firm was with another fleet management company. So not like doing reimbursement, coming to fleet, and then going back to reimbursement. I haven't necessarily seen that.
Okay.
But I can certainly dig into it more. I'm sure it's maybe happened across the company. What I can tell you is that our client retention is 97%. We have over 400 local clients in New England. So once you come on board, and we understand it's the first year is our opportunity to earn your trust and build credibility, right? And prove out that we can execute on what we promised you. And then once we get past that first 6 months to a year and you see how easy it is, there's typically people don't want to leave right after that. But so I'm sorry I can't give you like a specific example of somebody coming to us and then going back to reimbursement.
Sure.
I
No,
haven't
that's
experienced it.
fine. I wasn't sure that you would, but thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good question. I have Johanna on my email. I can ask her. I don't know if.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know if it was with Enterprise or if it was with another fleet management company. I think she was the one that popped a question in the chat about fuel.
Any other questions, thoughts about?
Yes, I have a question. Are we going to have this? I know it's been recorded. Is it okay to share it so we can go back and revisit?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe Leslie, you'll probably send it out to everybody after the call, right?
Yeah, yeah. I sent the slides, but yeah, I'll send the recording link, and yeah, you're welcome to share it with anybody that is interested. I'm sure Zach and Tucker will talk to nursing homes, insurance agencies. I don't know, probably anybody.
Anybody who's interested in fleet management.
There you go. All right.
Perfect.
All right, guys, thank you for your time today. We do try to do a lunch and learn each month. In the middle of the month, there's a schedule on our calendar. If there is a burning question you'd like me to research and bring in a topic, a speaker, I'd love to have new ideas. But yeah, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Leslie.
everybody.
Thank you.